What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the God Next podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Baldwin, with my co-host Donovan Moore.
Yes, sir. We back.
Yes, sir. Back from vacation, man. Say
Yeah.
what's up, B?
How y'all doing? It was good to be back with you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Seemed like just yesterday, man, we were all drafting our fantasy teams. It's already week 3. It's crazy how fast the season goes. So this week, man, we're right back at y'all with our matchup predictions, and we even have a new fun segment for you guys. But let's make sure to follow us on the gram, man. Follow us on TikTok at the God Next podcast, man. And without further ado, let's get into the intro.
Three-pointers. Outside jumper from three at the
All righty. So first matchup we have on Thursday night is going to be the Patriots and the Jets. B, go ahead and talk to me, man. Who you have for this one?
I'm going to pick the Jets, just not that they're overly impressive or anything, but just because Patriots are still, a brand new team, still brand new coach. And even though they've been impressive so far, I just don't think they have the talent to compete with most of the teams in the league. Meanwhile, the Jets, it's kind of a make or break season for them. And I think they have enough on both sides of the ball to come out on top.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Jets, I feel like their offense is still kind of coming along a little bit, but at the bare minimum, they have a solid defense. The Patriots like to control the clock, run the football, and I think the Jets, although they've been struggling with their run defense these first couple of games, I think they'll start to keep gelling and bring it all together. So their defense is one of their strong suits. So I like them to win again against New England on Sunday.
Yeah, not a whole lot to go into here for me, man. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Jets. So next up, got the Giants and the Browns. B, go ahead and talk to me, brother.
I got the Browns. The Giants became the first team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns to their opponent's none and still lose the game. There's just a lot of problems going on in New York, and it doesn't look like their season's going to be magically saved. I do like Malik Neighbors, though. He absolutely was a stud for me in fantasy last week. I hope he continues that. But the Browns just got an overall better team, even though last week we talked about Deshaun Watson being a distraction and kind of obviously not worth the money they paid him. They usually overcome that against worse teams, so I think they take advantage of playing a worse team at home this week in the Giants.
Yeah, if it's one thing we consistently brought up with Cleveland besides the whole Deshaun Watson thing, it's been how good their defense has been these past few years. So they're at home. The Giants, Daniel Jones, expect them to turn the ball over here. I think Myles Garrett will probably have a couple sacks. I think the Browns' defense and their run game will kind of be what gets them the dub this week. So I like the Browns. I think Jerome Ford might have a little bit of a solid game here. He's been quiet these first couple of weeks. I think he may do something.
Yeah, ultimately I'm going to go with the Browns here. The Giants. I mean, I've been telling anybody that would listen that Malik Neighbors was a dog. Like I had a lot of LSU games last year on SportsCenter, man. So I already knew like he was going to be tough from day one. He gets 18 targets last week, just ridiculous. I think that as long as they target him, I feel like they're going to have a chance. But this week, no, they don't have a chance. I think the Browns defense is going to show themselves mighty, show themselves strong. And they're gonna have themselves a good showing here. I drafted the Browns defense, and after a pitiful showing by the Colts defense last week, I'm trying to go all in on the team I drafted. So going with the Browns, hoping for a good outcome here. Next up, we got the Bears versus the Colts.
I think this will be a good game, but I do think the Bears have been exposed for having a lackluster offensive line, and the Colts are 0-2 playing at home. So I do think they're desperate for a win here, and I think they have the overall better team, which will propel them to victory. AR has been a little shaky. Not every quarterback who's been drafted in the first round is going to be good. I think the jury's still out on him. He's got arm talent, but I don't think his decision-making is quite there. However, knowing the flaws that the Bears have and not knowing if Keenan Allen's healthy or not, I think the Colts defense could have a good day. and Shane Steichen can come up with a good enough game plan for the offense to make just enough plays for them to win. So I got the Colts.
Yeah, I got the Colts as well. They just got flat out embarrassed last week against Green Bay. Malik Willis, I think he only threw maybe 5 passes, but I think the Packers ran for almost 300 yards on the ground, which is pretty ridiculous, knowing that they're going to be a one-dimensional team, especially without Jordan Love. So I think the Colts, especially coming off a loss like that, are definitely going to be motivated here at home against the Bears, and I think they'll come out with the victory.
Anthony Richardson looked awful last week. I don't really think anybody can say anything otherwise. So I think he's going to look a little bit better this week. But I can say the same thing for Caleb Williams. I think that the Bears haven't looked really good this year, but like they can really only go but up here. So I think I might have just talked myself into the Bears this week. I think I'm actually going to go with the Bears instead of the Colts. I think the Colts do have a lot of talent as far as JT and Michael Pittman and everything, but I mean, it hasn't really, surfaced into a lot, especially last week. And I think the Bears are just going to be hungry here. And they're getting Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen back into their offense, so I think that they may look a lot different this week. Next up, we have the Texans and the Vikings.
Well, this is one of my upsets of the week. I'm going to pick the Vikings here. I think Kevin O'Connell has proven to be a lethal coach in this league. Even last year when he didn't have a quarterback for most of the years, they looked good at times with Josh Dobbs before, it came crumbling down. But he's definitely managed Sam Darnold well. And boy, does Sam Darnold have an arm. That 97-yard touchdown he completed Justin Jefferson was pretty fabulous. I'm still not, sold on him, obviously, but I think the Vikings are feeling confident about themselves. I think they took it personally that a lot of people predicted they were going to be a last-place team this year, especially after J.J. McCarthy got hurt. But they still do have talent. They have good coaching, and they have a great defensive coordinator as well, and Brian Flores. And they definitely have gotten after San Francisco a couple times in the last 2 years, and they're no joke. And I think the Texans will meet their match this week, and they'll be able to slow down C.J. Stroud and company and come out on top.
This is really a toss-up game for me, honestly. I agree with your point, B. The Vikings are very well coached. Kevin O'Connell has proved he can pretty much win and produce with any quarterback he has back there. He's had Nick Mullins, Kirk Cousins, Dobbs, as you mentioned, and then he has Sam Darnold, kind of looking like a reincarnated Baker Mayfield in a sense, like how Baker looked in Tampa last year. That's kind of how Sam Darnold's looking this year. But I'm going to go with the Texans this week. I think the Vikings, depending on Justin Jefferson's status, may come a little bit back down to earth. But it's not to say that they're completely out of it. I think it'll be a close game, definitely, because as you mentioned, Brian Flores is a great defensive coach. But I think the Texans just kind of have a little bit more offensively. They can match up with the Vikings. And then defensively, I think Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson will kind of get after Sam Darnold. So I like the Texans, but this will be a very, very close game.
Ultimately, I'm going to agree and go with the Texans. I do think it'll still be close or whatever, but depending on kind of the statuses of the wide receivers, I may need to change my pick in the group chat, so I will let you know if that happens. But Nico Collins is questionable right now, and then Justin Jefferson had whatever happened to him last week, but it seems like he's on track to play, but we'll kind of just see what happens with those guys. Next up, we have the Eagles at the Saints. This is going to be a pretty interesting matchup, especially with the way the Saints have looked so far, and then I guess the way the Eagles have looked so far too. So, B, who do you have in this one?
I feel like this is one of those games where I'm going to regret, picking the team who I didn't pick in this case. But this is a rough one. The Eagles' defense did not look good against Atlanta, and the Saints' offense has been striking. I'm going to go with the Saints here, and I don't even know if we'd really call that an upset at this point, but I mean, going into the season, definitely it would be an upset. I just think they're going to run the ball effectively on the Eagles. I think the Eagles, stacked their offense over the offseason, but other than getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, I don't think they did a whole lot to fix a defense that was, really struggling, especially in the back end of games at the end of last year. And on top of that, obviously, veterans like Fletcher Cox retired. Not that, he was playing that well last year, but still that's a veteran leadership presence. Pretty much the only big-time veteran they have is Brandon Graham, and he's in his last season. Jalen Carter's still, being immature, coming late to meetings and all that stuff. It just doesn't look like it's a unit that's gelling right now. So I'm going to pick the Saints. I think they're a little more focused and a little more energized to go get a dub.
This is a toss-up one for me because they're in New Orleans. New Orleans has a very solid defense. They're great on the perimeter with their secondary. But I'm actually going to go with the Eagles in this one. I feel like just with how the Eagles lost on Monday night at home against the Falcons, their defense letting up a last-minute drive. I feel like they have some mistakes they need to clean up. But I think, honestly, in this game against New Orleans, they're going to lean back on that ground game that worked so well for them in Week 1 against the Packers. I think they'll lean on Saquon, and I think they'll come out with the dub. I'm not sure if A.J. Brown will be playing. That could be a huge loss if he's not playing. So that could maybe change my pick. But as of right now, I have the Eagles. I think they'll lean on Saquon, and they'll get the dub. It'll be a very, very tough game, though.
A.J. Brown said last week that he's likely not playing this week. Yeah, does that change anything for you?
I'll still go Eagles, right? I'm still gonna go Eagles because the way they lost to the Falcons, I think the Eagles will bounce back this week and win.
Okay. I don't know. I saw a lot of things from the Eagles I didn't like last week, honestly. We were watching the game together, man, and there was a couple times they were right there at the goal line. It was 3rd and 3 this one time. And you don't run Saquon Barkley, like you rather throw the ball right then, like, and then they got down the entire field by running it through Saquon, and then they get there and just, like they just the Eagles do it to themselves sometimes, like so. And then the Saints just look so good right now. I feel like they're in there at home, like I feel like they're gonna have some swagger. Alvin Kamara looks really good. I'm going with the Saints. I don't know, the Eagles they really disappointed me last week. I didn't see a whole lot from them, especially against the Falcons. Like, come on, they're supposed to win that game. So then next up, we got the Chargers at the Steelers. B, this is your team. You were going first anyway, though. So
it's a highly anticipated matchup. 2-0 teams that have really won off of defense primarily and good coaching. But the thing that makes it the difference for me is the Chargers do have more adequate play at quarterback, and they aren't necessarily flying across the country because they already were in Carolina last week. So it's not like they're flying all the way in from Los Angeles. Actually, the Steelers will be coming from further because they'll be coming from Denver, but they already got back and all. But it is a home game with the Steelers. That's the advantage they have. But the Chargers do have the better quarterback, which is an advantage to them. And, both teams got really good coaching. It's a toss-up. I'm gonna go with the Chargers just because I think they make a couple extra plays offensively that makes the difference.
It's a tough game. Wow. Yeah. These are both surprises at 2-0. I'm going to go with the Steelers this week. Although the Chargers have made improvements on both sides of the football, I think honestly what comes down to the difference between the two is TJ Watt. Albeit the Chargers have Khalil Mack and Bosa on the other side, I just think the way TJ Watt can change a game and completely take over, I think the Steelers' run defense will really come down to being the key here. Stopping the Chargers, especially J.K. Dobbins, who's looking great these first couple of weeks, coming back off an injury. But I think the Steelers will win. I think it'll be a close game. I can see it being like a 13-10 type of final score. I got the
Steelers. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Steelers, I believe, here. It's such a close one. I feel like both teams just like the offense isn't super great. Like the passing isn't great. It's a lot about the run game. And I'm going to go with the Steelers ultimately. I think Justin Fields might show some things this week. So next up, we got the Broncos and the Bucks. I feel like we don't have to waste a lot of time with this one.
Yeah, the Bucks. This is just a little seed to plant, but the last 7 NFC champions have been the Eagles twice, Rams twice, and the Niners twice, and the Bucks once. So, hey, are the Bucks that surprise team that's going to make it and just have it be 4 teams twice in the last 8 years? I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but I do think the Bucks low-key got a pretty damn good team, and I think it's really impressive how they went from Tom Brady. Everyone thought they were going to go back from the Bucks to the Yucks, which they've pretty much been their whole history outside of their 2 championships. But I think Baker Mayfield found the home clearly, and he's confident as ever. And Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and they still got some dogs on defense like Levante David and Winfield, who've been there for a long time. So credit to the Bucks for for playing like champions still, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with the Bucks as well. I'm not really seeing anything that tells me to have faith in the Broncos so far. I'm not gonna say Sean Payton's on the hot seat, but I mean, if you make a rash move like getting rid of Russell Wilson, you say Bo Nix is your guy. The Broncos are definitely going to need to show some signs of improvement sometime soon here. But Tampa's at home, like you said, be great defense. Mike Evans had a quiet game last week. I think he'll probably bounce back. I'm gonna go with the Bucks at home to win.
Yeah, ultimately gonna go with the Bucks here. Well, Bo Nix and the Broncos would look a little bit better than they have so far. They haven't really looked good at all. You know what I mean? Really hasn't been any signs of life. So, yep, going with the Bucks in this matchup. Next up, the Packers and the Titans. This is another one where it's the nip and tuck. Really, anybody can win. Who you got, B?
I got the Titans just because Will Levis has made a lot of mistakes. It's going to get him to the bench soon. But my guy Mason Rudolph is there to back him up. And I think even though he isn't the best QB, isn't the most skilled QB, isn't the most capable QB, I do think all those years in Pittsburgh, he did learn, and it showed last year that he wouldn't make the same mistakes. And all Will Levis needed to do was eliminate those mistakes, and they'd be a 2-0 team right now, despite all their flaws. Will Levis just is playing out of whack, about to get sacked and just throws a backwards pass that becomes a turnover, ill-advised interceptions. And, Malik Willis used to play for the Titans too. So I think, even though they changed a lot of their team, they might know a thing or two about him on film. And I think as long as the Titans don't give it away, I think, being the desperate 0-2 team that they are, they come out and get a win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with the Titans as well. Like you said, B, they've kind of been right there on the cusp of winning these first 2 weeks, but they've beaten themselves. Pause. Yeah, pause. Come on. We're talking sports. Come on. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Titans this week. I just feel like the Packers. I'm not going to say that was a one-off with how great they were able to run the football last week. Actually, I didn't know Malik Willis was returning to Tennessee. This could be an interesting game. But I'm gonna go with the Titans because they've found ways to lose instead of just winning the games that they've kind of had the lead in or just been in good situations for themselves. So I'm gonna go with the Titans this week. I think Tony Pollard may get in the end zone, but this could be a close game.
I feel like whoever scores first in this game might just keep the lead for the rest of it, honestly, and that's kind of where I'm kind of leaning towards. I think I'm gonna go with the Packers here, and I don't really know why. No, actually, I'm changing that. I'm going with the Titans. I think the Titans have more offense. I think that they're gonna throw the ball a little bit more. Like it seemed like last week, like Dono said, Malik Willis only had 5 throws essentially. So you're not gonna win a lot of football games like that. I think their run game is definitely dynamic though. Josh Jacobs looked pretty good last week. He had over 100 yards, almost 150 yards. But the Titans, they have an actual pass game. I feel like they have DeAndre Hopkins. They got Calvin Ridley, who had a really good week last week as well. Plus, they have Tony Pollard and other options as well. So I'm going to go with the Titans, actually. Next, we got the Panthers and the Raiders. I feel like we don't have to, spend a lot of time on this one.
I mean, Andy Dalton could surprise us and give the Panthers their first
You're
win.
right. He is starting. But, I mean, is that your thing?
The Raiders offer that upset in Baltimore. I think they will ultimately win. The Panthers are just a shit
Me too,
show.
Yeah. I'm about to say, I don't think you're going to pick the Panthers, though. But it could be closer, and it could be a better-looking loss, but I think it's still going to be a loss ultimately.
It'll be a more respectable loss. Yeah.
Yes. Next up, we have the Dolphins and the Seahawks. This is another one where it's anybody can kind of win it, but Skylar Thompson is still going to be the QB right now, so that's going to be.
Or is Tyler Huntley starting? Is Huntley starting this week?
I haven't heard that Huntley's starting. I mean, they just picked him up. I doubt he starts this week. I think maybe it's for the next week or the weeks after. I doubt he starts this week, but I mean, maybe. But right now, it's Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, damn, it's crazy that Tyler Huntley's on their roster. Especially because he was right back on the Ravens last couple of weeks. But Seahawks I don't think they're a good enough team to be 3-0, but they just might have drawn the right opponents to start 3-0. Denver at home, New England on the road, and an injured Miami team at home. I think it could go either way still, but I'll go with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Seahawks. They'll be at home. We all know Seattle's a tough place to play. And Seattle has a very solid defense, especially in the secondary. They got Tariq Woolen, Devon Witherspoon. And then offensively, Geno Smith, even though he's up and down, he does play pretty solid for whatever reason it is at home with the Seahawks. So I like Seattle.
So yeah, ultimately I'm going with Seattle. I need Tyreek Hill to do something this week. That's all I'm gonna say, man. After that 6-point performance, I need more. Next up, the Lions and the Cardinals. This is another one I feel like can go either way. Like there's a lot of matchups like this week. B, who you got?
I'm going to ultimately go with the Lions just because they're on a 1-game losing streak, and I don't think they ever lost 2 in a row last year, if I remember correctly. And I think they have a little bad taste in their mouth from losing a game where they outgained their opponent by a lot, which was the case against the Bucs last week. Kyler Murray looked really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. Definitely think there's a future there, but I do think the Lions are still the overall better team, and I think they go out and prove it on Sunday in Arizona.
I agree. I'm going to go with the Lions this week. The Cardinals, they're a feisty team, though. So the Cardinals will not just roll over and just get beat, pause. But, I mean, I got the Lions. Come on, man. Come on.
Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Lions too. I like the Cardinals offense, and like B said, Kyler Murray looked really good last week, but I mean, ultimately, I like the Lions overall team more. I think that their defense is usually pretty good as well, so I think that would be the deciding factor for me. Next up, the Ravens and the Cowboys. Interesting matchup. Ravens in full desperation right now. This is low-key a must-win for the Ravens. B, talk to me. Do they get their first win of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a must-win for the Ravens, but I also think on the flip side, Dallas, it's a bad look for them to start the season 0-2 at home. Could spell a lot of bad news. Their defense definitely looked flawed last week. Looked flawed in that Packers playoff game last year. Unfortunately for them, they got to go against the Browns team in week 1 with 2 starters on the O-line out, which can always cause problems for an offense. Could really go either way. I think it's going to be a really close game, like a 23-20 game. And honestly, I can't say with full confidence that if Justin Tucker's kicking a game-winning field goal, he's going to make it because he has not looked like himself dating back to the end of last year. Like I think from like 50 or above, he's like he's made like 2 out of his last 7 or something like that. Like that's not good for the GOAT kicker. So I mean that's another problem for Baltimore, along with their offensive line. It's like running through thin air. They regressed heavily at the offensive line, so I don't think a Super Bowl's in their aspirations if they don't fix that pretty immediately. But I am going to rock with them just because I know they're desperate at 0-2, and I do think they're over the years they've been a little less of a joke than the Cowboys.
I agree. I'm gonna go with the Ravens here as well. They're definitely desperate. I can't remember the last time the Ravens started 0-3, maybe in our lifetime.
2015.
Oh wow! So it's been almost 10 years since they started 0-3. And if there's one weakness the Cowboys have that's glaring, it's their run defense. The Ravens' strength since Lamar has been there has been running the football. So I expect a lot of Lamar and Derrick Henry this week. I think the Ravens finally get a win.
It really does. It's not really a question of who wins this game. It's by how much they win. It's really the Ravens for me. I think we have I said this like last week or was it 2 weeks ago about the Dolphins when they were playing, a big matchup against the Bills. I just haven't seen them win a game against a good team. I haven't seen it. Like whenever it's them mano a mano and they need something, it's just typically you're not going to get a good Cowboy performance. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think that they're absolutely desperate. And then Donovan talked about the Cowboys' run defense. Let's talk about their run offense. It's trash. Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle. I saw Deuce Vaughn getting snaps last week, and they signed Dalvin Cook, and he's in the pressure talking about, I still got it. I'm not cooked. Like, come on, bro. The run game is bad. Okay, they really don't have one. So even if they get up, and here's the thing with the Cowboys. I said this last week too. Whenever they're down in a game, they can't come back. Like there is no comeback. They just lose by a lot. There's really it's not really close at that point. They really can never seem to like get back into the game. So I don't think the Ravens are if the Ravens get up, they're not gonna let them back in the game. So I'm going with the Ravens ultimately. The Cowboys, man, I do think they're gonna be 1-2, and it's just indicative of what's going on in Dallas, man. So next up, we got the 49ers and the Rams. I don't know how much time we have to spend on this, even though there are multiple injuries on both sides. Who do you have, B?
I think the Rams ultimately not having Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, wins this game for the Niners. Niners are still at pretty much full strength on defense. And come on, if Brock Purdy's half decent, he's got to, win a game without C-Mac and Debo, who, let's not act like they don't have capable people playing behind them. Stafford, all he's been throwing to in the last 3 years is Cooper Kupp, and in the last year and 2 games, or 1 game, Puka Nacua. He doesn't have either of those. We already know Shanahan's got a dominant record against McVay. The Niners something's wrong with the Niners if they don't win this game.
Yeah, I got the Niners as well. The Rams just have a lot of injuries, and to be down your top 2 star receivers at that, and we know how much Matthew Stafford loves Puka and Cooper Kupp. I don't really know who can step up for the Rams this week on the perimeter. We know they got Kyron Williams in the backfield, but the 49ers will be keying on him, so I'm not really sure who's going to be that guy. So the Niners, for sure. That would be, like you said, be a disappointment if the Niners were to lose.
Yeah, ultimately I'm going with the Niners because, like B said, most of their defense is almost fully healthy. Like they haven't really had a lot of losses on that side. But it is kind of funny because this situation happened like a year ago, when Cooper Kupp is out early, and then it's like, who's going to step up for the Rams? And then boom, Puka Nacua pops out of the cut. So it's like, do they have another Puka Nacua kind of guy? I mean, Tutu Atwell's he's on the roster right now. I mean, he had some games last week where he had to step in. So I mean, I don't know. They seem to be able to get production from out of nowhere sometimes. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that. But I don't know if it'll necessarily shine through this week against the Niners. Next up, the Chiefs and the Falcons. The Falcons with an impressive win last week against the Eagles. Do they get another impressive win this week, B?
One team's got Kirk Cousins, the other's got Patrick Mahomes, and it's a primetime game. I know Kirk got his maybe 3rd primetime win last week. Credit to the Falcons for getting that upset. The Eagles were cocky. Chiefs might be cocky, but they got a little bit more of a reason to be. The Chiefs, I don't think they lose this game. Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs as well. The Falcons definitely did score a major upset last week, but it's hard for me to see Kirk Cousins winning 2 primetime games back-to-back. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. They have a way better defense than the Eagles have. That is a tough loss, losing Pacheco for a little bit with the fibula injury, but maybe this is when Travis Kelce starts stepping up, getting those underneath routes, maybe being a little extension of the run game. But I like the Chiefs this week to win.
Donovan said the key word here for the Chiefs this week, and that is run game. With Pacheco out for 6 to 8 weeks, are they going to do the committee thing? Is it going to be the Carson Steele show, the Samaje Perine show? I want to see what that looks like this week, something I'll be looking out for. But ultimately, I mean, other than that, the Chiefs are going to win the game. So, really not a whole lot to talk about there for me. Next, we have the Jags and the Bills. Is Trevor Lawrence any good, guys? Are we just going to give up on him, or like?
I think I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up. He's in his 4th year now, and like for being the number 1 pick, I know he hasn't really had a true number 1 receiver, but brother, you're the number 1 pick. You're supposed to produce the number 1 receiver. Like that's how good you were expected to be based on how you played in college. And he really hasn't lived up to it. Like I can't confidently say he's in 32 starters that he's in the upper half right now. Like he might barely crack 16, 15 maybe, but there's a lot of quarterbacks better than him. Now, they haven't played well, and even having Doug Peterson as a coach, a Super Bowl champion head coach, they haven't really shown a whole lot. So ultimately, I'm going to rock with the Jaguars for this game. They're actually surprisingly 2-0 against the Bills ever since Trevor's been their quarterback. Even the 1 year Urban Meyer was their head coach, they beat the Bills 9-6 that year, and they beat them last year in London. I think they got him in Jacksonville. They got him in London. I think they're going to get him in Buffalo on Monday. I think the Bills, even though they played really well, they're a little too new of a team to start 3-0, and I don't think Jacksonville's bad enough to be 0-3. And like I said, I like their history against the Bills. For some reason, they play well against them. So I know that caught you guys a little off guard, but I'm picking the Jaguars here.
The Jaguars were actually my upset pick of the week. That was who I was going to pick. So I like the Jaguars as well. To your point, B, Buffalo, albeit they had a 2-0 start. I just kind of think their team is still gelling. Josh Allen's kind of been carrying them in the ground game. And Jacksonville's defense, although their offense hasn't been looking too great, their defense has been solid. I think the Jags will get the win this week. I just think Josh Allen may turn it over a little bit because we know he can play a little erratic sometimes. So I'm going to go with the Jags. That's my upset pick of the week this week. I think they'll get their first dub of the season.
Those guys are way more bold than I am. I'm going with the Bills. I like what I saw from the Bills last week. They look pretty damn good to me. James Cook absolutely went crazy. So I feel like the run game's there. Josh Allen looked pretty good. He is probably going to throw a couple picks, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence might throw a couple picks too. I really don't know. But ultimately, yeah, I'm going with the Bills. I don't know why, but I have the Jags starting 0-3. And last but not least, Donovan's team. Last game of the week, Commanders at Bengals. Donovan, who do you have?
I'm just going to keep this one simple, guys. I got the Bengals. I think this is kind of a setup game, to be honest. The Bengals are coming off a tough loss to the Chiefs. They're at home. It's Monday night. This is just a setup for the Commanders to, if not get blown out, it's not going to be pretty, in my opinion. I think I would assume T. Higgins will probably be back this week. That's just usually how Washington's luck is, just being a fan growing up. I think T. Higgins will probably be back. Expect Jamar Chase to get a touchdown. Our secondary is pretty gruesome. But yeah, this seems like a trap game, honestly. The Bengals at home on a Monday night, they're 0-2, desperate for a win. I don't think this will be that great of a game. I got the Bengals.
It's funny. The Bengals were 0-2 last year, and they got their first win on Monday night against the Rams in a Monday night doubleheader. And Joe Burrow hasn't won a game since he had a season-ending injury last year. But he does remember his rookie year. He had a season-ending injury against Washington, and I think that still lingers with him. And I know they're desperate for a win at 0-2. I do think they squeak it out here. I would not be surprised, though, if it's a little closer than most people are expecting it to be. The Bengals are just a weird team. I feel like they could even be a bad version of themselves and still play the Chiefs close. They just really like to compete with the Chiefs. But Jamar Chase definitely needs to keep his composure if he really wants to make that 1 cent more than Justin Jefferson. Mike Brown, he's checking something off every time he does something like that. Well, this is the reason I'm not paying you max dollars, blah, blah, blah. Like, just you haven't been paid yet, Jamar, so don't give him a reason to out-negotiate you here. But regardless, yeah, I think the Bengals are too good to start 0-3. So I'm going to rock with them.
Yeah, I agree. This has to be the get-right game, right? I feel like schedule-wise, this just has to be it. Like Donald said it, desperate team, tough loss last week, 0-2. They have to get it together. So they have to win this game. I don't know how. I might bet that. You should bet the house on this. If you're a bettor, put everything you got on the Bengals. I feel like you might be able to double, triple your money. I don't care what the odds are. You just got to throw a lot. But and my upset of the week was the Saints over the Eagles. I don't know if I officially said it, but yeah, that was my upset of the week. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No, great episode, fellas. And I'll give us an update on our records next episode.
Absolutely. Guys, I didn't officially say it on here. We're back with our picks. We're going to be tallying up who's winning every week and who actually wins at the end of the season. We'll be getting a free jersey from DH Gate, which means it will be here the following year, and it will be a cheap jersey. It will be a $15 cheap jersey. That's not the point. The point is we want to see who wins. So follow along with us, man. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we'll be back with the picks and matchup predictions for next week. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.